राइट, तो ये पर्टिकुलर एमसीक्यू के वीडियोस में आई एम प्लानिंग टू रिकॉर्ड जो भी इंटीग्रेटेड केस स्टडीज है आईसीएआई के अब तक जो भी उनके एमसीक्यू आरटीपी में वगैरह आए हैं, राइट, प्लानिंग टू इंक्लूड अ डिस्कशन रिगार्डिंग ऑल ऑफ दोज, ओके। राइट, तो अभी कौन सी बुक को मैं रेफर कर रही हूँ, तो जो yes, edition 2 है, right, for the MCQ compiler जिसमें 1300 plus MCQs are there, right, so it's there on the website also, so I am referring to this to the MCQs, obviously ये MCQs आपको और कहीं भी मिल सकते हैं, but in case if you know कि मैम आप कौन सी बुक के MCQs रेफर कर रहे हो, so these are the MCQs which I am referring to, okay. Right, so integrated case study one. Sun Chemicals Limited, a prominent player in the India's industrial landscape, has been etching its mark since inception in 2008. Headquartered in the bustling city of Pune, Maharashtra, listed on the BSE and the NSE, the company has steadily grown into a multifaceted entity catering to diverse industrial needs. Sun Chemical core strength lies in robust manufacturing capabilities spread across multiple state-of-the-art facilities. The company produces a wide range of industrial chemicals, including specialty chemicals, performance chemicals, and basic chemicals. These products find application in various sectors from pharmaceuticals and textiles to paints and coatings, constructions, and agriculture. RK and Company, a CM firm, was appointed to conduct the audit for 34 for the company. Rahul Dubey was the engagement partner for the said assignment. In the organization structure, Rahul noticed that TCWG in the company are also involved in managing the entity. During the ongoing engagement of the audit at the end of the third quarter, during which tenure already two limited review reports were issued by RKM and company, the management of the company imposed a limitation on the scope of audit that Rahul considered likely to result in the need to express a qualified opinion or to disclaim an opinion on the financial statements. And accordingly, he requested that management remove such limitation, but the management refused to remove the said limitation. After following the due procedures applicable in the circumstances, finally, Rahul with his engagement team derived from a conclusion that the possible effect on the financial statements of the undetected misstatements could be material and pervasive, so that a qualification of the opinion would be inadequate to communicate the gravity of the situation, and accordingly he proposed to withdraw from the engagement after consulting with the senior partners of the firm on 15 November 33. In its resignation letter, the firm mentioned professional preoccupation as the reason for the resignation. Okay, right. So now coming to the questions. What was the responsibility of Rahul when the management refused to remove the said limitation? Right, so Rahul noticed that TCWG is also involved in managing the entity. And now there is a limitation on scope imposed by the management, which would lead to a qualified or a disclaimer of opinion. And qualified would be inadequate. That is why he decided to withdraw. And he's already issued the limited review report for the first two quarters, and now the ongoing engagement of the third quarter. Okay. Right. What was the responsibility of Rahul when the management refused to remove the said limitation? Right, to determine whether it is possible to perform alternative procedures to obtain SAAE, to communicate the matter to TCWG, and whether it is possible to perform alternative procedures to obtain SAAE, to determine whether it is possible to perform the additional procedures to obtain the SAAE, and to request for written representation from the management for the matter on which the limitation is imposed, and also communicate the matter to the TCWG. Right, so here the question very clearly says that management and TCWG is one and the same. Right, so there is no separate communication required with the TCWG. So that is why B and D cannot be the option. Now, to determine whether it is possible to perform the alternative procedures or the additional procedures, what do we always say? You perform your audit by hook. If not by hook, then by crook. And if no crook, then 705. Right, so it says to determine whether it is possible to perform the alternative procedures to obtain the SAAE. Okay, what was the responsibility of RKM and company with respect to the issue of the limited review report at the time of the resignation? Right, so now on what date has the auditor resigned over there? 15th of November 2033. Right, so when we discuss the company, audit reporting chapter over there, we also discuss the points regarding the resignation of the auditor, the SEBI LODR rules. Right? So if the auditor has resigned within 45 days from the end of the quarter or after 45 days from the end of the quarter, or if he's already done the audit or the LR for the first 3 quarters, right? Then it says before such resignation, he has to issue the audit report or the limited review report for such quarter. After 45 days, such quarter as well as the next quarter. And if first 3 quarters, then not considering what is given above, he has to issue the audit report for the full year before resigning from the engagement, right? So the case study is based on, the MCQs are based on this particular technical part over there. Okay, right. So what does it say? What is the responsibility of RKM and company with respect to the issue of the LR report at the time? Limited review report for third quarter was required to be issued. No further limited review report was required to be issued as already it was issued for the second quarter at the time of resignation. Limited review report for the third quarter was required to be issued, and consequently after its issue, the audit report for the full year is also required to be issued. An LR for the third quarter was required to be issued subject to the terms of audit engagement. So subject to the terms of audit engagement, anyways, we are not in favor of this point. Right. So now what does it say? The auditor decided to resign, proposed to withdraw from the engagement as on 15th of November and in the resignation letter. Right. So what is the quarter which got over just before that, 30th of September? Right. So the entire month of the October. So 31 days of the October and the 15 days of the November, right? So 46 days, right? So now auditor has resigned within, right, after 45 days from the end of the quarter. So now before such resignation, he has to do the audit limited review of such quarter. Right, so already done the audit limited review for the first 2 quarters, right? So for the first 2 quarters, that is for the June and the September, right? So for the June 33 and for the September 33, already the LR, the limited review has been done, and now the auditor has resigned on the 15th of November 33. Right, so now it is after 45 days from the end of the quarter. So before he resigns, he has to give the limited review report for such quarter. And anyways, now what ends up happening that he's issued the report for the first 3 quarters. So before resigning, he has to issue the report for the entire audit report for the entire year also. Right. So when you fit into condition two, it comes a condition two, it becomes a catch 22 situation. Because you've done the report for the first 2 quarters, that is why you're doing it for the third quarter. And now once you've done it for the first 3 quarters, before you resign, you have to give the audit report for the entire year. That is what the provision says. Right. So last point, if the limited review report has been issued for all the 3 quarters, then auditor has to issue the audit report for the full year before resigning from the engagement. So we have to apply both situation point B also and point C also. Okay. Right. So now what does it say over here? Right. So no further limited review report was required. No. Again, no further limited review was required. Not right. So now limited review report for third quarter was required to be issued, and limited review report for third quarter was required to be issued. And once you issue the limited review report for the third quarter, that means you've issued the report for the first 3 quarters. So now before you resign, you have to give the audit report for the full year also. Okay. Whether in the given circumstances withdrawal from engagement was mandatory, and if so, what is the responsibility of the auditor with respect to such withdrawal? In the given circumstances, withdrawal from the engagement was not mandatory, and in case of withdrawal, the auditor was required to withdraw. If in case of withdrawal, the auditor was required to withdraw from the audit where practicable and possible under applicable law regulation. In the given circumstances, withdrawal from the engagement was mandatory, and in the case of withdrawal, as the withdrawal from the audit before issuing the audit report was not practicable or possible, he was required to disclaim an opinion on the financial statements. Okay. In the given circumstances, withdrawal from the engagement mandatory. If engagement was mandatory, and in case of withdrawal, the auditor was required to withdraw from the audit where practicable and possible under the applicable law regulation. And in the given circumstances, withdrawal from the engagement was not mandatory, and in case of withdrawal, as withdrawal from the audit before issuing the audit report was not practicable possible, he was required to disclaim an opinion. Right. So was it not mandatory? No, it was mandatory, because what did the auditor say? According to him, he had to issue a disclaimer of opinion. So what does it say? Qualification of opinion would be inadequate to communicate the gravity of the situation. right? And that is why he thought that he should have given a disclaimer. But say management TCWG are against in the draft report for a disclaimer of opinion. So he proposed to withdraw from the engagement. Right? So that is why what does it say? Withdrawal is mandatory. So withdrawal from the engagement was mandatory. So now these 2 points over here are similar. And now in the case of withdrawal, as from the withdrawal from the audit before the issue of the audit report was not practicable or possible, he was required to give a disclaimer of opinion. So because now what did we say? Because of the SEBI LODR, he has to give the audit report for the full year. And now that is why can he withdraw, though it is mandatory, but he cannot withdraw. So now what he needs to do in that case, he has to give a disclaimer of opinion. Right? He has to give the disclaimer of the opinion. Okay, question number 4. Assuming Sun Chemicals to be an unlisted company, whether the reason for resignation by RKM and company was proper. Right? So what they have given as the reason, professional preoccupation and very busy with other work. So that is why not giving the resigning from the audit. It says no, you have to give the detailed reason. Right? So no, the auditor should have clearly mentioned the reasons for the resignation in the resignation letter issued to the company. No, as the requirement for clear mention of reasons is not applicable to unlisted company. Yes, in the given case, the reason for resignation was due to the limitation imposed by management and refusal to provide reasons for the same. And accordingly, though being an unlisted company, it was totally upon the discretion of the auditor to provide the clear reasons or not for resignation. No, the resignation should have been a little lengthier. How interesting. And further, the exact reason. So now they don't say clear reason. They say the exact reason must be provided to the new auditor. No. So new auditor out of question. Right? Then it says it was due to limitation. So it is at the discretion of the auditor. Yes, the requirement for clear mention is not applicable. No. Whenever you resign, you have to give the clear reason for the resignation. Right? Professional preoccupation is not the correct way to mention in the resignation letter. And assuming that the auditor proposed to resign on 14th November, so just one date they are preponing it. So instead of 15th of November, now the auditor has decided to resign on the 14th of November before issue of the limited review for the second quarter. Then what was the responsibility of RKM and company with respect to the withdrawal from the engagement and the issue of the limited review report at the time of resignation? So now the auditor has resigned within 45 days from the end of the quarter. So the auditor shall communicate with TCWG the matters regarding the misstatements identified during the audit that give rise to the modification of the opinion and the limited review report for the second and third quarter were required to be issued. The auditor shall communicate with TCWG the matters regarding the misstatements identified during the audit that would have given rise to the modification of opinion and the limited review report for the second quarter to be issued. So your second and third quarter, your only second quarter. The auditor shall communicate to management UGB that matters regarding the misstatements identified during the audit that give rise to the modification and limited review report was issued. Okay. And the auditor shall communicate with TCWG the possible effect on the financial statements of the undetected misstatements, if any, could be material and pervasive, so that the qualification would be inadequate to communicate the gravity of the situation, and the limited review report for the second quarter was required to be issued. Right, so here it says communicate that the possible effect and then the qualification would be inadequate. No, that communication is not required. Right, so what will be the correct option over here? Only for such quarter, because the auditor has now resigned within 45 days from the end of the quarter. So the auditor shall communicate. Now again, TCWG, here again, as we see in the question, that management TCWG is one and the same. Let's say you communicate to WG is as good as communicating to the management also. And then after that it says regarding the misstatements, the matter giving rise to the modification. No need to tell the drama that qualification would be inadequate and so. And simply you issue the limited review report for the second quarter. Right? So yeah, that completes our discussion for the first integrated case study over there. Right? So more to follow in the further videos. Please check the entire playlist for the same. Okay.